Hi everybody and welcome to the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey and I'm joined as always by Sam Proof. Today we're talking all about repurposing content, why you might want to do it, how you might like to think about it, and some of the opportunities that exist in your content library. We are going out to all of the places, so if you are watching live, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. And in fact, we're going to try something new, Sam. If you're watching live, type in hashtag Team Live, and if you're watching a replay somewhere, hashtag Team Replay. So Sam, how are you going? How's your week been?
Good. I've been dealing with sick kids all week. My youngest was sick at the beginning of the week, and then ended up going back to school today, just in time for Betty to get sick and stay home. So it's been like that. And all the time I was working on a new project. We're launching a podcast for Cute Avalanche. It's our first cat paw cast. So I've been trying to get all those ducks in a row so the cats can eat the ducks, because I guess that's what happened, which it's coming up next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, June 14th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time over on the Cute Avalanche YouTube channel. So go find that and notify yourself. How's everything with you, John?
Everything's going pretty well. I have taken some time off from my day job to just chill out and work on some side projects, and I've been recording some podcast interviews and learning some new software and abandoning some software because it wasn't playing nicely with other software. So it's always fun, but you know, we're here at the weekend, so that's always nice. Big hello to CG. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, I guess today we want to sort of talk about repurposing content, and I guess, you know, it can be really tempting as a creator to want to just create day in, day out all the time. But let's be real, that's really, really difficult. If you're creating anything that's of any value to anybody, there's a good chance there's some time and energy and effort and potentially even money going into that. So I guess, Sam, why should we think about maybe reusing some of our existing content?
Yeah, I mean, the long and the short of it is, not everybody's seen your content, and the chance of you actually, getting so upfront in the face of the same person that many times that they're going to be like, "Well, I'm out of here," is actually very small. Like, more often than not, you're going to attract all new people on all different platforms. This is a way to take one thing, break it up so that you can take the most interesting parts of it, and put it everywhere. We talk often about spreading yourself too thin, and that's generally more about trying to dedicate a lot of time to each particular platform and things like that. Whereas this maximizes the amount of work you can actually do from what you've done already. It takes something and spreads it out.
Absolutely. And I guess it's really important to keep in mind that a lot of the social media algorithms are incredibly fickle.
Yes.
They won't show everything to everybody. And I know sometimes content creators can be really self-conscious and be like, but I made a post about this back in 1997. I can't talk about it again. And it's like, no,
Right.
you really do. And to be honest, even if the same users are seeing the same messages over and over again, that's actually a good thing. Like, you know, they do need time to learn the things that you're trying to convey and to internalize those messages. I mean, there's a reason why, you know, we don't play an advertisement one time and just never again. You know, that
Right.
reinforcement is really important.
Yeah.
But I guess the other thing too is like, you know, if you have put that time and energy and effort into something and it hasn't quite got the reception you were hoping it would, it doesn't necessarily mean the content's bad. It may just mean that you need to do other things with it. And often just resurfacing an existing piece of content can be really, really useful. So I guess those are a couple of things that I'd encourage people to keep in mind. So I guess the pillar that sort of exists underneath all of this is the idea of building a content library.
Yeah.
And I guess it's, you know, maybe I should let you speak to this one first, Sam, because I do have some thoughts, but I know that you have some as well.
Yeah. I mean, this is really just all about being organized in your creative process, about what it is you're doing and how it is you're storing all of that. Because you don't want to just be like, like literally before the show, we were talking about I'm not to call John out on this, but we were talking about like when we're recording things through OBS, he just defaults to that record folder that OBS goes to, and I actually have different shows and things, and I have it go to different folders just to make it easier to find it after the fact or once I've remuxed it. And having that sort of preconceived architecture for how you are storing your files is going to help you later and finding those files to use for different things. You don't want to just have like, oh, I just put everything in my downloads folder. I just download all of the things I've ever done into one folder and then spend an hour trying to find that Christmas GIF of myself so that I can post that because Christmas is coming. You want a little organization to help you on your journey.
Sure, and I guess I did actually say that before we went live, but to be honest, once I've remuxed them, I do move them to a different folder structure. And to be really honest, probably 90% of the battle is just establishing some folder structures and some conventions, and some filing name conventions.
Yeah, so, and just a workflow. Because I think you are actually probably more organized after the fact. Not like that one particular issue is like, it's a non-issue.
And like I do hear from people that use a lot of automation to send files to Dropboxes and then notify an editor to go in and do their work on it and whatever. But really, like I have folders for different shows. So I've got one for this show. I've got one for the Coffee and Content show, which I haven't done in a little while, but it's, I used to do that quite religiously. I've got one for my podcast. I like to combine all the assets for a particular project in the same place. Mm-hmm. And this could be video, this could be text, this could be a transcript for a video or audio podcast. It could be thumbnails and graphics. The idea is that we have all these things together where it makes sense to have them. Because, as you say, it's all about refining those things when you need them. And if you do have a way of organizing that and being able to find those things again easily, then that's really half the battle. So as long as you know where they are, and I guess the other thing too, depending on what kind of cloud services you might be using, I know I use a lot of Google Drive, for example. If all else fails, it has a pretty robust search function, so I can usually think of one or two words that I know would probably be in there and look for it in that way. But generally speaking, like I really want to make sure it's in the place I expect it to be. So when I do need to go and look for it, I can.
Yeah, I think, different projects have different needs. Like case in point with the, Cute Avalanche Kitten stuff, all of my folders are initially sorted by litter. So I know, like, whatever the current litter is, like the orange pops, that is its own folder, and they just kind of go that way. So I can be like, these are these cats. And it saves a lot of guessing when I go, which orange cat is this? And be like, okay, this is this particular litter. I'm pretty sure I know which one it is. Whereas with a lot of the Sam Proof vlog stuff I used to do on YouTube, that was all chronologically organized by folders per year, per month. So that I could be like, I needed Christmas stuff. I'm going to go into December 2021 and take a look there,
Yeah, absolutely. And I know WordPress actually, and this is a bit outside of the scope of the video and live streaming show, but I know traditionally WordPress used to categorize images that you would upload by year, then by month, then by day. Yeah. And that was really not a useful thing for me because I don't have this photographic memory of, when did I upload a particular file. So again, it's, I've been saying this all week to all kinds of people in all kinds of contexts. It's really about finding something that works for you. But again, folders and file naming conventions are just amazing. And like, if you've put those things together, like, just being able to find them is such a powerful thing. But let's actually talk about some of the different format types that you might potentially be working with. I mean, obviously this is the video and live streaming show, so we have a bit of a bias towards those sorts of things. But I kind of encourage people to think more holistically in terms of all the things they're creating. And, think about those text posts and those image captions that you're using. If you've spent any time on those, it's a really good idea to actually save them somewhere, and ideally with the same project. It's often one of those things that if I've if I've created a vertical video, for example, and I have a caption that goes with it, I will save that as a pure text file in the same folder with those things. So if I ever want to repost it again, or if I want to take information out of it, and that's also a really great opportunity to put things like links and usernames and other people you might want to tag in that particular piece of content. So that's a really good way of thinking about that. Sam, I guess I'll just open this up to you. Like, how do you think in terms of different content types and reusing them and remixing them, I guess?
There's too much. It's just it gets to a crazy place. But yeah, like if you're doing something, much like you said, you're creating a vertical video with captions, like that in itself is usable as a different format, as like a slide for an Instagram or a tweet post or something like that. So yeah, and anything you're creating should be archived. So I highly recommend getting very familiar with something like Google Sheets and creating a good format that you can reference on that, so you can look back and be like, what are the good bites that I had from here, the good captions, and like try and organize those as best you can, because everything can be reused somewhere else.
And it's funny, I completely forgot how invested you are in spreadsheets. So we'll have to have that conversation one day. But I do hear other people talk about Airtable and
Sure.
Different. There are all kinds of kinds of systems out there, and again, it just depends on what you need. Mine, in some ways, is quite manual, and it's really, really simple. But I mean, I just love. This is a bit of an aside, but I just love writing stuff in Windows Notepad because there's no formatting, there's no fancy toolbars. I can just sit there and write what I need to write. If I copy and paste that somewhere, it's not going to bring in weird formatting in the way that it does for some places. And as someone with a web design and development background, I'm forever telling people to stop copying stuff out of Word documents into their web pages. So that's a good thing as well. But I feel like there was something else I was going to say about text documents. Yes. So if you have a long piece of text, you can actually break that up into a Twitter thread, which is something that I kind of do a lot. This is an example some of you may have seen before, but I just want to bring it up again. So this is, I don't know, I want to say a solid year ago, perhaps, I initially interviewed Sam and about Qt Avalanche specifically, and I just wanted to talk about some of the things that I did to sort of remix and reuse this content. So we started out with this this interview. This is just the thumbnail of the video of the conversation we had. I actually went into PowerPoint and I made slides based on the transcript of what Sam actually said. And you can export those as individual images, which work in certain places like Instagram is a great example. Facebook as well, potentially, although they show up a little bit differently. But the nice thing about this was that Sam was really talking about two different things at the same time. Like he was talking in a really high level way about just getting started, but he was also addressing some of the OBS specific features that you might need to use and how you can get started simply. And I just love that worked on two different levels. So it was a great opportunity to call out different things at different times. So I guess, even conceptually, think about, what are the different points that you can call out? And if you have like a half an hour interview with somebody, there's probably a good 5, 6, 7 angles or subjects that you've covered or different things that you can really come to. So I guess it's really important to keep putting things in front of a potential audience because they won't always bite straight away, but it's really, you want to give them the opportunity that if they do have the time and they want to pick up that thread, that they can do that as well. So that's a really good thing. So those are some examples, but I guess let's turn our focus to video and live streaming specifically, Sam. We've just done a live stream. We've got a video recording. What should we do with it?
Well, that's it. Go plan for the next live. No, don't. It's absolutely gold that you have there. And now you need to go into it and find all the moments. And if you're smart about it, while you're streaming, you can have other like things set up so that you can actually find those moments easier. That might be a conversation for a whole other day. But, there's a bunch of services like Twitch has markers and things like that, where you can just hit a key on your Stream Deck, make a mark in your timeline, and then in the Twitch creator, you go in and find that and be like, this was a good thing I was talking about. It's, if you're a one-man show like we kind of are, and you're on screen and you're directing and you're trying to run the interview and all these things, it might be too much to ask for you to also be the person taking notes. So you may have to just review your whole thing after the fact, and like as you go through, find those moments and take timestamps and be like, this is what happens here, this is what happens here. Beautiful thing about when you do that and you take those timestamps and just literally make a document with 10 minutes, 15 seconds. We talk about different format types, whatever it is. Once you have that big list of all of those things, aside from the fact that you can then go back into it and now cut those down into clips and vertical videos and take transcript sound bites and turn those into things. You can take that entire timestamp thing that you've just made and throw that into your YouTube archive. And now you've made chapters that are clickable within YouTube. So people can be like, oh, I want to see the thing where they talk about Instagram. Boom.
Absolutely. And, it is, you sort of talked about being part of a team or being like a solo content person. And
sure.
I guess the only thing I want to add to that, especially for beginners, is it's really important to go back and watch and listen to your own content.
Yes.
And I know it's so cringe-inducing when you start, but it's really important feedback to actually go in and do that. So, I mean, certainly there are all kinds of video editing options. You can actually take clips out of YouTube specifically, directly in that way. There are all kinds of AI tools that I don't like to mention for obvious reasons, but they do exist and they may or may not work for you. Try them out. Let me know. I just want to talk a little bit about some of my workflow in TechSmith Camtasia. And we have sort of done a longer show on this specifically, so if you want to check out the archives. But essentially, this is actually a recording that an interview that Tanya Smith from Stream Like a Boss did with me. I've got a couple of clips on this this timeline. I guess to Sam's point, you can certainly go in and add those references. It is possible from Camtasia to export this directly to YouTube, and it will take that information and put it in the description automatically. I've never really done that. I always do it manually. I don't know why. I'm probably just a control freak, but that's something to note too. But the thing I really want to call out about Camtasia specifically is that I can actually select a region within my content. I can right click and I can go add this section to the Camtasia library. So that way I can, and I do, I still need to go through and watch this and listen to it and pick out the moments that I think will be most relevant to the audience. But once I do that, I can actually go over to this section here on the left-hand side of the screen for those of you who are watching. And this is basically the library. This is where all these clips exist. And if I create a new file within Camtasia, I can just drag that content straight onto the timeline. It'll all be grouped together, but I can ungroup that. I can sort of edit the audio. I can maybe silence myself out when I'm not talking. I can add embellishments on top of this. I can do captioning. And that way I've sort of got the clip ready to go. So, I mean, that in itself, and to be honest, I'm using the Camtasia library mostly for video, but you can put your audio in there, you can put your music in there, you can put the graphics, your branding elements, all that stuff in there. And it's really, you can organize this into different folders. I don't do a lot of that. I probably should do a little bit more than I do at the moment, but you can have different libraries and different folders within those libraries. And you can actually search within that library too. So that is really awesome. And I don't know, I mean, I don't use a lot of other video editing software except a little bit of CapCut, but I'm not really sure that there are many things out there that have that specific library feature. So if you use one and it does, please let us know in the chat. I'd love to learn more about that, but I just found that incredibly useful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wish CapCut had something even remotely like that. That is my biggest complaint about CapCut, is that it is like a single serve timeline per project kind of thing. So like your media, you're constantly importing the same media if you want to reuse it for different things.
And I guess the other thing too, like if you and again I think we've done a CapCut versus Camtasia show. So if you're interested in either of those pieces of
Yeah.
software, you might want to check that one out. But the other nice thing about Camtasia is you can actually create your own templates. So I could actually just have a couple of empty boxes with where I want the videos to be, and then include that in the library, and then just drag it out and have my branding elements there ready to go. So, again, my feeling is there'll be all kinds of variations on this depending on the software you're using, but it's worth exploring a little bit to see how you can work with that. I guess the other thing too, like when you are live streaming, whether you're doing a local recording, maybe you're using a third party tool like Restream or StreamYard, it's a really good idea to download those recordings and store them somewhere.
Yes.
Because if they're lost forever. And it's not to say that everything you do will be pure gold that you want to reuse, but I think it's really worthwhile to have that option. There's nothing worse than sort of losing a recording that you wanted to work with. So I know, or I understand, Sam, that you've invested in some hard drives recently.
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah, I've got a bunch of different hard drives. I have all of my projects kind of specified. So like Qt Avalanche has dedicated hard drives for its media collection, and then I have a separate one for production. And then Samproof has its own sort of media drive, and then a separate one for production. So yeah,
And I guess that's
and if
the
they
thing
ever
with
fail me, I'm gonna cry. Go on.
I guess that's the thing we really need to underscore with video, and especially long form video, is that you're going to use a lot of space. So it's really important to think about that up front. And I mean, external hard drives, NAS storage. I've got a NAS set up here at home. I've got to remember to actually back things up to it from my local computer because my hard drive is looking very full at the moment. But again, potentially you could use cloud services, but just be mindful that, you might need to switch those off when you're going live in case they're trying to upload giant videos while you're trying to stream. It depends a little bit on the speed of your internet connection, but just keep that in mind as well. Obviously, I guess the other opportunity for repurposing live streams is that short form vertical video. So, Sam, what kind of things do you think we should keep in mind when repurposing our content as a YouTube short or a TikTok or a reel?
Sure. Well, I mean, the recording itself is where you're going to start. Like if you're able to, and you can actually just record that, through like the ATEM OBS plugin so that it is already formatted. It's its own file. I think that helps speed things up a lot of the time. But yeah, you just want to go in and find like really quick sound bites that start right on point. With shorts, you don't have time for like chit chat and set up. It's get to the problem, get to the solution. So you want it to be anywhere from 7 seconds to, at the longest, maybe a minute. And that's generous. Probably 30 seconds is the longest. I think 24 is what I've heard is like the golden long form short content, if you will. But I have a lot of luck in the 7 to 10. So yeah, you don't want this sort of setup thing happening. You just want, does your cat like peeing outside the litter box? Here's 5 tips, whatever it is, and then you go. Yeah, with short form stuff, you want to find those sound bites that are extremely concise and really just get right to the point of supporting whatever that issue is.
I must admit, this is something I don't feel I'm particularly good at because I will use all 59 seconds of the video because I just, I don't know how you give anybody 5 tips in 24 seconds. So I guess that's the thing. You need to think about it as a complete thought and a short thought because the attention span, like you're literally only a flick away from the viewer moving on to another piece of content.
I mean, you have literally like a half second to grab people at that point. It's swipe and right here. If you haven't grabbed them by this second half swipe, then you're gone. So it really is just like you have to find just the most outlandish, not outlandish is a little bit much, but just on point thing instantly. And, legitimately, probably the best vertical videos are specifically made for vertical video. But for what we're talking about, you can repurpose and take sound bites and do it. So you just have to pick those choice bits.
And I guess like we're approaching this from a horizontal first
Right.
perspective. But you can, if you've been accepted into the various programs, you can stream vertically to
That's
TikTok and
true.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So it could be that maybe your content is already in that format, and in that case, it's probably even easier to repurpose in
Yeah.
that sense. But I mean, all kinds of multicasting software now give you some sort of version of individual recordings. So it's not usually a big deal, but just keep in mind that you're probably going to have to crop some of the footage. So again, I know it's the most unsexy piece of advice I can give you, but just be in the middle of the frame. That's
Yeah.
probably the starting point. So and I guess the other thing too is a lot of I mean, both certainly TikTok and YouTube Shorts. They do have a lot of user interface at the top and the
Mm-hmm.
bottom. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want people to focus on should be in the middle. So centered vertical and horizontally, and you should be good to go. But again, think
Yeah.
about a complete thought, but also a really short and snappy and pithy thought as well.
Yeah. And I would say um, two other things, which is, all of these platforms are aware that this kind of thing is happening. So they really sort of lean into people who specifically make content in that app. So go into the YouTube Shorts app or the Reels or the TikTok, and whatever captions you were going to put in, if you put those in manually, and now you've added extra minutes you know, per each instance of this to do that. But if you put those captions in through the app itself, it's going to be searchable, and it's going to kind of give you a little heavier weight to your algorithm hits. That's the trick. So that is potentially better than if you just do it all in your editing software, or maybe do 50% to save some time. The other thing I wanted to say is, because you reminded me with the YouTube thing, um, you've streamed, right? You're going out and theoretically you've streamed or archived your video on YouTube. You can then go in and use their remix tool to then make that same clip through that tool. I would almost encourage you to do both. Use the remix tool, which will directly link to the original source material, but also do like the uploaded shorts, you know, because I think you're going to reach two different audiences. So
Sure. And I guess, especially, you've mentioned this, and I've certainly mentioned this in previous weeks. When you're going live, you're wearing a lot of hats, and it's
yeah,
very difficult to do a lot of things at the same time in real time. So
yeah,
I think often when you go and edit those shorter clips, whether it is vertical or horizontal, it's a great opportunity to go in and bring in that B-roll and, have a little bit of an animation or offer some more context, not just because
yes.
they're visually engaging things, but also because they help illustrate the points.
Yeah, I would 100% agree that you can almost completely disregard the video aspect of the live stream and utilize just the audio and, punch it up, add some stock footage, some B-roll, some, fancy graphics. I think that's a great idea for sure.
Okay, so this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey, and it's always a good sign when I can't even say my own name. But bear with me, it is Saturday morning here in Australia. But I am John Lacey, and I'm joined by my co-host Sam Proof. Today we're talking all about content repurposing. So how can we extend the life of those amazing things you've created and put out into the world? Sam, this wasn't even on my list, but it's just something that pops into my head a moment ago. How do you feel about reusing live stream shows in their entirety? I know there are a lot of third-party tools that will actually let you take the recording and then post it again as sort of a pretend live stream. Do you think that's a good idea,
Live
or is
as
that just
live. Yeah, yeah.
yeah?
VOD as live, I should say. It's interesting. I think it really depends on what the show is, how big your audience is, and if there's a demand for that sort of thing. Um, I don't think it's that effective for a smaller channel, more or less. I mean, we technically do it on the Cute Avalanche channel when we can't do night vision, or if the cats have to go to like a vet appointment, we will run a like playlist. It's not a full live stream, but it is clips from live streams. But to take something like our show, I think would potentially work because we have a topic and we're not relying strictly on chat interaction. And I think that is the defining factor on will this work as a replay, a rerun, if you will, or not, is does this format rely heavily on interacting with the live chat? Because if it does, somebody watching after the fact is going to be like, how come they never answer me? I've been
Mm.
typing all this time and it just doesn't happen. um
And I
you
think
know
you've got to set that expectation
yes.
because people will be chatting to you and they'll be
Yeah.
like, "Why are you ignoring me?" And
Right.
then hopefully, I don't think it's a terrible idea. There are some times, I guess I think in terms of Twitter where there is sort of, or there was, I can't keep up with the Twitter developments. But there was a certain number of minutes that are of shortness of length that the video could be to upload it directly. And for a little
That's right.
while, I was using Restream to send longer videos to Twitter as a destination. But I guess to your point, it is really important to set those expectations. So whether you are doing that or not, just let people know because
Yeah.
the potential to feel ignored is so great in a live stream, and it could happen for a whole bunch of different reasons. And I guess one thing I do see from time to time is that there are video podcasts and they might be live, they might be recorded, but either way they're just not acknowledging the audience at all. And I
Sure.
think I almost feel like that's a trap, and I would almost encourage people to upload it as a pre-recorded video and make sure people were aware that that was the case rather than just put it up there. Or if you can, put it up there and then acknowledge the chat within the chat. And again, some platforms let you do that better than others, so keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Like literally on Twitch, they have a requirement that if you're going to do that, you have to toggle on an option they have on their dashboard that says that it's a rerun, or a replay. Along those same lines, yeah, like what you said, if you're doing it as a live, I've seen people do like they've got their phone going and they're on TikTok and then it's burned in like live on Twitch, and then that's where they're actually reacting to people, and I'm like, I get it, but that looks desperate. Like, it just looks like you're desperate to bring traffic over, and you're not talking to the Twitch or TikTok at all. It's pointless, and I'm sure they love that as a platform.
Absolutely. So, I guess we've spoken a lot about sort of repurposing that video content. But let's talk about remixing it in perhaps a more general sense. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's I certainly think for a lot of platforms it is worthwhile to just share the same content in the same way at another time. Some of the
Yeah.
social media platforms have a very short half life, if you will.
Yeah.
So sometimes that is worthwhile. But I think another really powerful opportunity is to go in and make some changes to that existing content. Maybe bring a whole bunch of different things in together at the same time and build something new from those existing components. Sometimes that will require that you actually go in and maybe record a few extra things. So maybe you need to be on camera. Maybe it's a voiceover just to piece a couple of different ideas together. But I think that can be really, really powerful. I guess, Sam, like, how do you? I guess what I think I know about you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you really like to put something out there and then move on to the next thing as soon as possible.
To a fault, yes. I mean, yeah, and I'm trying so hard to learn from your example to do better with this. But yeah, that has always been uh, sort of my Achilles heel, is like the second I've gotten through the creative process, I have washed my hands of it. I am done. put it out into the ether. I don't even tweet about it half the time. It's like, and I'm like, and I know I don't take my own advice on this. And I'm like, I get what needs to happen. And I'm so excited about doing this other thing now. So yeah, no, don't be me, be a John.
So, but I guess one place where you probably are doing this a little bit better than me, and probably because I take myself too seriously and don't like having any fun. But in terms of like meme formats and trending audios and things, I don't have a great deal of interest in those things, but I know that there are people flocking around that particular content, and I think this is something that you use certainly a lot better than me, which is not saying much because I'm not using them at all. But I guess how do you feel about that as a piece of content and maybe as a way of remixing some existing content?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is that it's fast and easy. Like, I spent a lot of, the last decade and a decade and a half pouring like hours and hours and hours, if not days, into a single edit for a video that would get 10,000 views. And now, thanks to all of these meme-based shorts, I can spend 10 minutes, tops 2 minutes normally on a video that will get 10,000 views. Whether or not that has the same KPIs after the fact, that's a whole other story. But, view facing, it feels like the same reward, right? So there's the thing with this is like, CapCut, and this is why I use CapCut so much, makes it very easy. There's a whole library out there of just UGC templates that are these meme things that you can just take a clip of something and drop it in, whether it is a soundbite from a stream you've done or just even a picture of something that you're doing. And, half the time it really only needs to be a picture or just a soundless clip with this meme over it that's like, hey, unveils large red, curtains. Look at this thing I did. And then there's my podcast, or there are my kittens, or, and you can use the same one like multiple times. I don't think you could do it every day, but maybe once a month you could use that same meme and get away for it for a little while. So yeah, it's very fast content to be made and shared.
And I guess I've seen people essentially create their own meme formats in the sense that the setup to the video will always be the same, and it'll always be in the same location and from the same camera angle. But then maybe the setup and the punchline are different. But again, they're still in the same sort of context. So I don't know. I guess there are things that people are obviously attracted to and are very happy to watch over and over again. I've mentioned in a previous show that I'm a big fan of the I was born a dog, I identify as a dog, but according to my mum, I'm just a baby. Like, I can watch that stuff to the end of time. There are other things that I do have a lot less tolerance of, and I think I have a weird relationship with TikTok specifically,
Sure.
because it's enjoyable and it's mindless, but I feel like it's the junk food of content creation. Like, I enjoy it, but I don't know that I'm necessarily fostering great relationships with these people. And it's kind of the reason I've just pulled back a little bit. I don't think it's the best use of my time personally, but again, your mileage may vary for your projects, so
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. But I guess the other thing about that is you do need to be a little bit mindful of how you create those videos. If you're using audio, how do you add that audio per service? Because it might be licensed on one platform and not the other.
Yeah.
So those are certainly things to keep in the back of your mind as you move forward. But again, I think there's really a great opportunity to infuse some humor and, just to, like I said, take yourself less seriously than I do, because I think that's a great bonding opportunity between you and a potential audience. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think with a lot of these sort of meme formats, there's the sort of game of the meme is really there's a couple dozen possible, things. Like a lot of these memes really play the same sort of game. So if you can be aware of that enough, you can almost make your own sort of soundbite list of like, this is the clip I would use in any meme that's like, oh, it's a weird, a fish out of water scenario, or unveiling my work of art thing, which is very popular. Like, and you could almost jump on those trends faster, and be like, oh, it's another one of these unveiling ones. I know exactly what I'm going to put because I have this list. It's one of these 3 clips. Boom. It's another spreadsheet that I'm working on.
And again, I'm sure we've seen at least one of your spreadsheets on the show before, but they are really something to behold. So it was really funny. At one point, I put together like a really, really basic spreadsheet for our content planning for this show, and I thought, I hope Sam's okay with this. And then I completely forgot that, he lives and breathes spreadsheets every day. Yeah. So, it's certainly nothing that he needs to be scared of. But I guess the other thing that I do see that is potentially both funny and entertaining is that I see a lot of people playing different characters, and there are a lot of bad wigs on TikTok, let's be real, but it is often a really entertaining way of articulating a point. And I don't know the woman's name to save my life, but there is one woman that sort of has she dresses up as different characters and essentially talks about work and work boundaries, and they're really entertaining, but they do have a real message behind them as well. So that might be another sort of thing to consider. So this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey, and I'm joined by Sam Proof. As always, today we're talking all about repurposing your content to get sort of a longer lifespan out of those things that you've put your time and energy into. So we're going to continue with that in just a second. But right now, the obligatory shameless plug for my podcast. I'm John Lacey, and in Build a Presentation Muscle, I want to talk about finding your voice, refining and sharing your message, using tools and technology to share that message, and looking after yourself as a creator. And you can check that out on johnlacey.com or wherever you get podcasts, even though a lot of the podcasting experts hate it when you say that. But certainly, if you search your podcast app of choice and can't find it, it's called Build a Presentation Muscle. Yeah. Let me know, and I'll try and get it added in there as well. So I just wanted to mention that we're up to I think I just did episode 5. Episode 6 is actually going to be the first interview. I'm speaking with somebody about overcoming their fear of being on camera, and also how they use LinkedIn and other services as community building and collaboration. So really looking forward to sharing that with everybody. So check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, you can also find this live stream as a podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm not supposed to say that. Is that the? But basically, apparently, based on the poll that I did, I should only be telling people Apple on Apple Podcasts. That seemed to be the majority, and then
most people,
others.
I mean, Apple is far and away the number one destination. And the interesting thing is, even a lot of the indie podcast apps still use the search engine from Apple to let you find things. Yeah, Spotify is in the number 2 position. So again, like we've got this stuff everywhere. So just enjoy it where you enjoy it. Although, if you want to let us know where you're enjoying it, that might be useful feedback as well.
Yeah. But speaking of podcasts, that is another potential place that you can reuse your content in audio form, and in some cases video form as well. You can archive your videos or live streams on YouTube, which now has a playlist tab that has promised to eventually create an RSS feed where you could then feed that out to like your Feedburner or your Spotify to then send that to other podcast locations as well. Or just,
I think it's and admittedly it's early days, but I know that there were some leaked documents about how that integration works, and that's a much longer conversation. I might look up some resources later, but basically I think what they're proposing is that they will ingest your RSS feed, so it comes from a third party platform.
Okay.
But they do seem to have some stipulations in terms of not including advertising and a whole bunch of different things, which
Interesting.
the
Well, I guess we'll
audio
have to
first
see.
podcasting community have a lot of feelings about. But
Yeah.
that's a
Well,
whole other show.
that's fine.
Um,
I've already ingratiated myself into the Spotify world, so like I'm not changing that anytime soon.
Sure. Okay, cool. So this is the video and live streaming show. I guess before we go any further, I really do want to ask you to like and subscribe wherever you
Yeah.
happen to be watching this different this content. We go out to a whole bunch of different platforms on both Sam's properties and mine as well. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. Again, if there are specific topics you'd like us to talk about, let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear from you in that regard. I guess, like, Sam, I guess one of the assumptions that's built into that podcast move is that there are potentially different platforms that might be worth exploring.
Yeah.
And we know that these things tend to come and go from time to time. So I guess how would you actually end up how do you feel about if you were to go to a new platform, whether it's a video platform or a social media platform, is that a good opportunity to go through the archives and maybe upload some of the existing content, or would you prefer to just start from scratch?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you as a creator are creating and how timeless or timely that particular content is. But yeah, I think that is a good opportunity to look back on your archive and schedule out a bunch of things, uh, in theory. Um, and if that's easy to do, great. With a lot of these new platforms, I wouldn't want to put too much effort into it because it might just be a flavor of the month that dies down in, a 2-month span or a year it's gone or whatever. But be cautiously optimistic. Whenever there's a buzz about something, at least register so I get my screen name, because there's one too many times that I didn't. Uh, and you just gotta protect your brand. So yeah, I mean, if your content is done in a way that is easily re-listenable, I say yes, start there, start with the archives and put it out there, and see what happens. And pay attention to what kind of interactions and return you're getting on it on that platform to see if it's worth really investing more time on it.
And it is it's a thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, is that you can have preferred destinations and potentially push
Yeah.
all the audience to YouTube, for example. And that is actually something I'm sort of interested in exploring. But I guess the other thing too is, and we spoke about this in the multicasting episode, the fact that you're going out to different places and you have recordings in different places, it sort of helps you hedge your bets a little bit. So if one of those places does, cease to exist, which happens with social
Yep.
media platforms all the time, you're not necessarily starting from scratch. So I guess it probably does depend a little bit on your audience. And again, that is something I am really interested in exploring over the next month or so.
Yeah.
I guess I sort of mentioned Tanya Smith earlier as part of that Camtasia demo, but she's currently doing a sort of a live streaming summer school, and where she would normally broadcast to a whole bunch of destinations, she's decided, no, it's all happening on YouTube. You've got to come to YouTube or you miss out. And I think potentially as a strategy to build your YouTube channel, I think that's probably a really good idea, and I really do want to do that myself. So again, I guess keep an eye out for the invitations for this show moving forward, because we might switch it up a little bit. But again, this is only something I'm thinking about and sharing in real time, which I probably shouldn't spring on poor Sam while he's just sitting there.
We've had this conversation in bits and pieces in the past, and I think it is definitely a conversation worth having. The beauty of this is very sidebar from really repurposing, but in a way, we're talking about putting your content out in as many places as possible, and multicasting to a bunch of different streaming locations is great in the sense that you can kind of dip your toe in the water here and there and there and there and see what the response is, but also there's something to be said about, okay, maybe I've got 2 people watching here and 2 people watching on Facebook and 2 on YouTube. But if I focus all of my energy on just YouTube, I now have 10 people watching on YouTube, and maybe that would actually boost discovery in their algorithm a little bit higher. So it is something to be considered.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just feel like it's something we don't have a definitive yes or no answer for right now.
Sure.
And I mean, maybe we never will. But again, I think I'm just really fascinated by it because I think, Sam, every time we talk, Sam says, don't spread yourself too thinly. And I create the things and I just upload them to all of the places and I don't really care and I don't always get a lot of traction on a lot of these places, but I think it already exists. I might as well.
Mhm.
But I think especially I kind of want to niche down in terms of a couple of destinations that I'm really interested in building. And also, I kind of want to niche down a little bit differently. So again, I'm still very much in the process of figuring all that out. So I'll let you know in the coming weeks and months how that unfolds. But and maybe that's potentially a topic we could discuss on the show more generally.
Yeah.
If that is something you'd be interested in hearing about, let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. So, Sam, as we begin to wrap up the show, I guess, do you have any final thoughts about repurposing content? Maybe a place somebody could start if they are just getting started?
Yeah, I mean, take whatever you've done and really just go through it with a fine tooth comb. Like, there is a creator balance that needs to happen where, and to my own fault, I do this, where you do something and you put all of the time and effort into the creation and then none of the time and effort into the promotion. And really, a lot of what this repurposing content is promoting. It is creating the trailer for the feature film. And in the world of entertainment, it's more like 90% promotion, 10% product. So take that concept and really lean into it, I think is the advice I would give.
And it's funny, I sort of think about some of those large properties like
Yeah.
Marvel films where they already have a huge following, but they spend so much money on
Yes.
actually promoting them each time. And I guess, it seems to work for them. So I guess it's always a good opportunity to, just bring up the thing that you've done and share it again. I know, like, as creators, we can be quite close to the things we create, and it can be a little self-conscious to do that. But you've got to keep in mind that people aren't seeing these things all the time, so it is
Right.
worth unpacking. I guess the other thing that we didn't mention was that there is a great opportunity to collate your work in different formats. So whether that is bringing related videos into a YouTube playlist, whether that's actually creating
Yeah.
a long blog post and incorporating some of those videos, and you can embed YouTube Shorts into a blog post. That is a thing you can do.
Mhm.
There are all kinds of things. And I guess the other thing I do see on YouTube from time to time is people will make 10, 15-minute videos about a particular subject, and they will actually create compilations of those videos.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch scary, weird things caught on camera, you can watch a single video that goes for 2 or 3 hours if you wanted to. And I know some people will probably immediately go, who on earth would want to do that? But these things are getting watched. They are getting views. So again, it may just be an opportunity to think about how you're repackaging these things.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing too is if you do go through your own archives and you see a progression or a transformation, or some underlying themes, like I would encourage you to think almost like a documentary maker and just sort of clip those things together. And we know that, documentaries use those voiceovers to connect different pieces. They use photographs. They use newspaper clippings. There are all kinds of bits of content that are already in your existing library. Maybe you need to think about how they look and relate to your branding and put that together. But that's the beautiful thing about sort of video editing is you can compile all these things together in a really nice, succinct package. So I guess I would just encourage you to think about some of the possibilities there, and they really are endless. I mean, don't get overwhelmed. Think about what you
Right.
want to do this week, but just keep some of those things in the back of your mind. And I think whether you do this on paper or whether you do it electronically, just have a place where you can dump all your ideas. So if you are having a week where you're like, I don't know what to share or write or record or post or whatever, that you do have a place to go back to where you've thought about these things ahead of time.
Yeah, and along those lines, you should really look at your week and schedule days for specific tasks. Like, this is going to be a day in which I review footage. This is going to be a day in which I do all of my graphic mockups. This is going to be a day where I do editing and clipping and things like that, so that you don't go, okay, I'm going to take this one project and I'm going to make 50 different things from it. And then 3 things in, you're like, I'm so lost and tired. Because that's the quickest way to burn out, is to try and do a million different things from in one day. Like,
And that's a great point. And to be honest, as someone who spends a lot of time in front of a computer, all kinds of parts of my body are aching at any given moment in time. And I did find, like, the idea of clipping up 5 or 6 clips from an hour's worth of video was just excruciating. But I thought, what's the next step? Can I open the software? Can I drag in the clips? Can I listen to some of it and put up some markers, and then just move away from the computer as you need to. So, like, whatever you need to do, whatever works for you is wonderful. But I guess, don't post once and forget about it forever. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity to redo something from scratch, and maybe as your skills develop, you'll have better ways of doing it or different ways of doing it. That's all good as well. But I guess I don't want people to burn out because they are starting from scratch every single time.
yeah.
Okay, Sam. So where can people find out more about you and what's your content and all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can find all my links over at my website, samproof.tv, and look for me live on Twitch, and find those shorts over on TikTok.
Nice. And if you want to catch up with anything I'm doing, you can head over to johnlacey.com. I've got all the social links at the bottom of the page, but of course there are a whole bunch of articles there as well, and videos, and content about OBS Studio, which is one of my favorite things in the world. So Okay, I just pressed a button on my
That's
Stream Deck accidentally and something popped up. Although, hilariously, that is the vertical plugin. And I just want to note, this is something that we do actually use to record a version of this show. And it helps me speed up the production of those clips for YouTube and Reels and TikTok and whatnot. So yeah, that's thank you to everybody who's joined us in the chat. Again, if you are watching later on, make sure you get involved with that hashtag Team Replay. But we'll be back again same time next week to talk about more video and live streaming topics. Again, if there's something you would like to hear us cover, let us know what that might be, and we'll talk to you again soon.